Do you have a smoky engine bay? Do you own a BMW? Do you have a bad valve cover gasket? Do you just like to hear my voice? If you answered yes to any of these questions, this video is for you. Welcome back to another day off. I had just finished up doing an intake reseal as well as replacing some cooling system components on this 2001 BMW 330i. I'd gotten the car warmed up and it's just dumping smoke out of the passenger side of the engine bay. Problem with that is this is a 3-liter straight 6 BMW engine, an M54. You'll see it in 3 Series, 5 Series, X3, X5. It's a great engine, really common, super reliable, but valve cover gaskets tend to go bad. So today I'm going to show you how to do it. First we started with just taking off the plastic covers off the engine and the intake manifold, get some access, remove the ignition coils, pop those clips out and get the O2 sensor connections out of the way. And from there we're just going to start unbolting all of the 10mm head bolts that are holding this thing on. Now after getting these bolts out, you need to go through and try to grab all of these metal sealing washers that go on top of the grommets. It allows the bolt to put good even pressure down to the grommet. You want to make sure you don't lose any or drop any into the top end when you're pulling this valve cover off. So you can see here the last person to do this gasket did me dirty and just smothered this thing with silicone. Not necessary. These gaskets are solid by themselves. I'll use a little bit of product on some other sealing surfaces, but you don't need to slather it with silicone like this last person did. Save yourself the trouble, no need. But what we're doing now is you can see I'm breaking loose these studs. They protrude from the cylinder head and that's what fastens the valve cover down onto the head. I like to remove them because then I have a nice flat even mating surface to scrape clean, get all the silicone that someone left me off of the cylinder head surface. So pull those out, just be cautious, especially putting them back in. Be gentle, don't want to over torque them and cause yourself some more trouble. So the studs are out, excluding me of course. Now I'm taking a X-Acto scraper and just trying to get all this garbage that someone left me on here. It's actually a real pain. It took me way longer to clean this than it should have, but I'm very picky about having a clean mating surface. I'm not trying to put this valve cover back on and have a little bead of silicone causing me a leak in the future. So scrape it off with an X-Acto blade. Don't mar the cylinder head surface. I go over it with some Scotch-Brite and a little bit of brake cleaner. Cuts through that silicone pretty well, but I want the mating surface spotless, not a single speck of black or silicone or anything, but I'm kind of a perfectionist as well, so take it with a grain of salt. Alright, I think that's enough scraping and cleaning for one video. Wipe it down with a clean rag and some brake cleaner at the end, good to go. So we got the valve cover off. I don't have a parts washer, which kind of sucks, but I got brake cleaner and an air compressor hose and a rag and a pocket screwdriver. So main focus here is just getting inside that channel that the valve cover gasket sits inside. Oil tends to pool up in there as it's leaking over time, so try to clean it out real well. You don't want a real slick lubricated surface, or else that valve cover gasket won't stick and hang out in there when you're flipping it over and putting the valve cover back on. So just go through, make sure you give it a nice good cleaning. Use the effect of that brake cleaner to try to really push all that oil out of there, get a nice clean dry surface. So the valve cover's clean, now we're putting the gasket back on. One thing to note on this, make sure you get it in nice and seated. Also, there's some sort of half circles that protrude off the front and the back side of the valve cover gasket. I like to put a little bead of silicone there, as well as on the front where the vanos seals into the cylinder head. For this, I'm using this product called Curl T. It's made by L-Ring. I'll put a link in the description for you. So now I'm threading in these studs back into the cylinder head by hand. Then I'm going to crank them down with a 1/4 inch ratchet. I don't torque them to spec, I just put them nice and snug. You don't need to go too crazy. Don't over torque them. Alright, so the valve cover's going back on. You can see here I screwed up the placement of the gasket, fell out a little bit as I was putting it back on. Keep an eye out for that. Look down the spark plug tubes to make sure you don't have any protruding gasket, and you can see that all the gaskets are there and set nicely. Also, I recommend taking an inspection mirror, looking at the back side of the valve cover gasket where those half circles protrude. Make sure they're seated down there nice and correct. Just take a look at it before you snug it down. Then what you want to do is start by snugging the center bolts first. Just work your way around, get them all nice and hand tight. For this, I also recommend buying a new grommet kit. I like to buy a valve cover gasket kit online. I've been buying my parts from ECS Tuning. Shout out ECS Tuning, please sponsor me. Anyways, they sell a valve cover gasket kit, which includes not only the gasket, but like all 16, 18 sealing grommets. So they wear out just as fast as the gasket does, and I have seen them leak from there before, so it's a good idea to renew them while you're in there doing the job. Then get it torqued down. Alright, so we're getting closer. There's a vacuum hose as well as some oxygen sensor wires that need to get routed along the bottom side of that valve cover gasket. Just make sure you put them back where they came from. Additionally, there's the ignition coil harness that needs to come back over on top of the valve cover, pushes back down into some plastic clips. And then there is a couple ground wires that need to be fastened back down to the valve cover. From there, you're able to start putting your ignition coils back in, fasten those back down with the 10mm head bolts, and we are almost ready to rock. We'll take the power wire that comes over from that intake manifold area, flop it back over to this battery terminal connection, and we are good to go. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I hope this video brought you some information or some entertainment. Be sure to comment down below on what you'd like to see next, and please hit that like and subscribe button. See you next time.